questions?
Yeah, well, it's good to see everybody. Hope you're all doing well. Excited to get back on the grass tomorrow with these guys, and it's been a good off season. A lot of really good work. Nice having the continuity in the staff and the ability to, not be showing someone else's film as you're teaching your installs. For Coach Beck, to be with, the offensive coaches in the second year, and he's already worked with Joker prior. Feel like there's really good chemistry there defensively. The entire staff is back. The players did a really good job coming in January and listening to the things that we really wanted to focus on, and felt like as good as we were in a lot of areas last year, there's across the board areas of focus. And having Devin back for spring ball is a big deal. You always love having your starting quarterback leading you on the field and your practices and your off-season program. And so it's good to see him not just being healthy, but the mental space he's in right now is outstanding. Excited about the growth we've seen from him as a leader, and Ben Finley has had a really good offseason. Aaron McLaughlin on campus already, along with 17 of our mid-year guys. So, focus for the spring. Obviously, you're always looking at your scheme, areas that you want to experiment a little bit and help players grow. We feel like there's certain guys that we lost. Obviously, losing Kerry Angeline at the tight end position opens up some touches on the offensive side of the ball at that position, and looking forward to seeing a young group of tight ends develop there. Feel like Trent Penix and Jordan Houston are guys that can take other steps for us in our offensive system and help us in other ways. The young class of receivers that came in a year ago, Anthony Smith and Chris Scott, Jalen Coit, look forward to seeing them. Josh Crabtree, that group now kind of have an opportunity to get some more work. Offensive line, lost one starter in Joe Scultrup, and feel like there's really good depth and competition at that position group. Defensively, it's great to be able to get Daniel Joseph back for another season. Excited about the gains he's made in the weight room, the defensive line in general. It's a lot of experience. Obviously, our linebacking core returns. Peyton and Drake will not participate in contact this spring, but it'll give us a chance to evaluate, the guys behind them, and also an opportunity to really look at a couple of the young linebackers. Excited about the development of Betty and Jordan Poole, Caden Fordham, and what they can bring to the table at that position group. At the defensive back position, we brought in 2 transfers, and so excited to see competitive depth we have in the secondary. And then getting Tayshawn Smith back, he'll be a part of spring ball, won't be in contact drills, but he'll be able to do a lot of our individual and non-contact stuff, and excited about that. But it's going to be fun just to see the competitive depth across the roster. The guys are in a really good frame of mind. We need to cut our penalties way back, pre-snap and post-snap type things, and that's a huge focus this offseason with the discipline that it takes to limit the plays that hurt you in a game. We're able to overcome some of those penalties and not others, and I feel like that's an area we can make dramatic improvement. Always, you guys know me, when it comes to taking care of the ball and getting it back is a huge emphasis, and the details that go into that. I think as you get older as a football team, those kind of things get better, and we do have that experience on the roster. And so, biggest thing is just last year we lost so much of this time, and I think the spring and fall camp in general are just 2 of the best times of the year as a coach. There's not a game that you're trying to get ready for. You have a lot of teaching time, a lot of time to really slow it down and dig in on the little things that matter so much, and the chemistry of your team and the development of your roster. And so being back on the grass and seeing kind of the direction that things are going with the pandemic, I'm very positive about this opportunity to improve. And losing out on all those days last year, I know was really difficult particularly on the offensive side of the ball for Coach Beck, installing a new system without the opportunity to coach in it and really get a sampling of what his guys can do. And I think he's got a very good handle on the things he wants to do differently with the staff. So it's going to be fun. I'm really looking forward to it. There's a lot of positivity here right now. There's a lot of good chemistry on this roster, and it's an opportunity for a lot of young guys, and in some cases not so young, guys like Dylan Parham, who I think is chomping at the bit. Trent Pennick's chomping at the bit to get out there and earn a role, to be playmakers on the offensive side of the ball. So we'll see how it goes. I'm not going to have a great feel for it probably till about midway. We won't scrimmage until we get into the second week, that second Friday, and start to be able to kind of see where things are headed. Any questions?
All right, let's Justin, you want to start us off?
Hey, good afternoon, Coach. Hope you're doing well. Just considering all of the challenges that last season presented with COVID and everything, and how long that season probably felt from a players and coaches perspective, how valuable was getting some time off in the month of January to, yourself, your coaches, and also your players?
Yeah, it was mentally exhausting. Just the number of things we had to deal with from operational standpoint, the decisions, the planning. Usually it's pretty cut and paste when you figure out when you can start practice and how it's going to roll out. And last year it was the opposite. It was, we were changing things daily at times, and it wasn't just on the coaches doing it. I mean, everybody involved. I thought we handled it very well. I think our guys accepted the fact that we were going to be very flexible through all this, and had to embrace that part of what happened, but it did wear you down. It was a blessing in disguise, really not being able to go out on the road and recruit and be here with our players and be here with our families and be able to take some breaks in the calendar to hit reset and just rejuvenate. So, I think everybody's in a good headspace right now, and our calendar is set up a certain way to allow us to continue to work hard, but also rest when we can.
David.
Hey, Coach. Good afternoon. You mentioned how excited you are about Devin Leary and his progression. Can you just talk about what you've seen from him in the last couple months, from a leadership standpoint, from a physical ability standpoint, and just what's got you real jazzed up right now?
Well, Devin believes in himself. He's played well. He's very confident, not cocky at all, just very confident. He's very comfortable in the role that he's in. He believes in himself. His teammates believe in him. He's done a really good job building relationships with his teammates, and just excited. You see him walking around the building, and I think last year he was trying to win a job and prove himself, and he had to deal with all the things you guys are aware of with contact tracing. It was hard on him, and just to be in a good space right now where he can be himself and take advantage of the time he's spent here. He understands the system. He knows his talent around him. He's played in big games. He's brought us back from behind to win games. So there's just a lot of things that are different for Devin now, and different in a good way. And it takes time, as a player, to have experiences and grow. And to his credit, he's been able to do that and push through some tough times.
Jonas.
Hey, Coach, good to see you.
You too.
You mentioned Daniel Joseph and Dylan and some other guys who elected to come back. Before the end of the season, we asked you about some of those seniors. You said you guys will have conversations when the season ended. If you could share what some of those conversations were like. Was Mecca just a matter of wanting to get more film? Were the rallies just trying to get back years they missed because of injuries? Just kind of let us know what made them want to come back for the extra year.
I think they're all a little bit different. Daniel was at Penn State, as you know, for a while, and didn't really have a main role on that football team. And I think he's embraced being a starter. He's embraced being a playmaker, and he wants an opportunity to do that more. I think having more film is important to him. I think in Emeka's case, he's got a lot of film. It's not that. I think he really loves his teammates. There's some things he knows he can do better, and he wants to improve on those things. But each of these guys is different, and it always starts with, what can you gain by coming back? And each guy has different things. It's CJ Riley and Tyrone Riley are both guys that have battled injuries, and I think they want to just go out on a good note. They want to have a healthy season and finish college the way they want to finish college. Dylan Parham, like I mentioned, I think having a role, he's battled injuries as well, but being a starter and Dylan Ottenreith and Kerry Angeline were such a presence here for so long. I think it's his opportunity now, and he looks at it that way. Chris Ingram's another guy that's, has an extra year here, and hopefully we'll get Chris back healthy. But they're all a little different, and for me, it's just about listening and trying to give them, my 2 cents and talking to their parents if that's part of it, and helping them through it. It's not trying to coerce them one way or the other. Like I tell all of them, I want them to have peace. I want them to be happy. I want them to turn around and know that they did everything they wanted to do while they were here to the best of their ability. And each kid's different. I think some guys feel like they've done it. And Naheem's case or Aleem's case felt like they were at the point where they were ready to go. And then in other guys' cases, there's just things they want to work on. Ryan Finley had things he wanted to work on. Bradley Chubb had things he wanted to work on. And, it takes time. Each of them were a little different in their timeline.
James.
Hey, Dave, hope you're doing well. I just wanted to ask you a quick recruiting question. With the NCAA really making your senior class juniors this upcoming year, how is that impacting 2022 recruiting for you? I mean, the evaluation process probably has to change for that class, right?
Yeah, the roster management conversation is very challenging right now. Normally you can predict your attrition through how many seniors you have. And in our case, there's, I have it in front of me right here, if I can read it. I think there's 16 to 19 guys that are in that kind of category, and not necessarily knowing where they're going to go. You have to recruit like they're leaving, but you have to also, take into account how their season's going to be, because they could opt to come back, as we just saw with the class we just had. So, we're really in a tough spot. We're hoping that we get some answers from the NCAA. There's a lot of committees and subcommittees and groups that are studying this right now and coming up with plans for us to be able to recruit the 22 class the right way. As a coach, you're really in a tough position because we are over, you have 85 and then you have your super seniors, and your super seniors don't count in your 85. So, how many you're going to lose and how many we can bring in is a hot topic right now. And so we're just trying to manage it and listen and pay attention to the conversations that are happening, and when asked, give our input as an ACC coaching group to the ADs and to the subcommittees, and Todd Berry with the AFCA and all the commissioner and everybody else, so that we're on the same page with the best path forward. Because it is it's a financial piece for the universities as well. When they gave everyone a scholarship for an extended year, there's additional fundraising and obviously money generated that has to pay for those scholarships. So, it's tough. I'm not sure I answered your question because I really don't have one for you yet. It's just there's a lot that goes to that. And, for us, we're just trying to be fluid. We have to communicate well with recruits, and in some cases, there'll be conversations like that we're not sure if we have a spot, but if we do, you're our guy, and see where that goes.
And just to follow up on this season, you were able to play the bowl game without Aleem. How would you evaluate that nose tackle position coming out of the bowl game and going into spring?
We'll miss Aleem. Obviously, he was a really good player here, and we're excited for him. We're also excited about, what we have coming back and the competition there. CJ Clark is really excited and has worked really hard to get to where he is. Josh Harris is a young man that as we continue to get him into the shape we want him to be in, we feel like can be a force in there. Davin Van is another young man that we feel like can play nose and end in our scheme, that has grown up a lot this offseason. He was really impressive, and his personality's coming out and has learned how to play the position. He's a linebacker in high school, a lot like Aleem, that is now growing into that state championship wrestling body that he has, and how to use it and play with leverage. So at this point, I can't tell you how it's going to play out. I'll just tell you that we're excited about the guys that we have there, and look forward to watching Coach Wiles develop that position group.
Mike Topper.
Good afternoon, Coach. Nice to see you.
You too.
You kind of started off with this, and I'm working on a story kind of like 1 year looking back, and this could be a loaded question, but I wanted to ask you, we're seeing the bright spots with the pandemic, and I was wondering if you could tell me as a coach what you learned the most from, even just starting up in the fall to going through the season, and not necessarily the X's and O's, but just kind of managing things through the pandemic. What did you learn most through that experience?
I think just the amount of sacrifice that went into this whole thing, the players did a phenomenal job of listening to the things that they needed to listen to, of really protecting the season, and buying into that. And so many of the things that players look forward to, right, playing in front of a sold out stadium and all these things that go into college football fanfare weren't there. And I do think the love of the game really came out last season in college football. And just as a coach, it was really fun to be a part of that, just to see the guys opt in to play through something that was scary and unknown, and stick together, and the opportunities to really grow apart or grow together were all over the place, socially and medically, through the off season and the season. And I thought our guys, our staff, our players just grew together through all of it. And I think that's what, coming out of something that challenging, you just can't lose sight of how important that is. I think just the love of the game and the chemistry in doing this, and understanding why you do it. I think that really came to the forefront last year for players and coaches, and in some cases you were more worried about coaches' health than player health when you were learning about what the virus can do to the age group. So, I think there's not one way to do things, that's for sure. As you think back in your career, this is how we do fall camp, this is how we do two-a-days, this is how we do whatever. And all of a sudden it was completely different, and you still had good results. I just think the open-mindedness that needs to be a part of this profession, it really put that to the forefront. Your ability to plan and be fluid and communicate well and get buy-in from everybody, not just your players, but from everybody to work together for a common goal. It was really a test to that. I think you saw programs that really failed in that environment, and programs like ours that really thrived in that environment. So, moving forward, there's a lot of lessons from it that we'll carry with us. The things that we're really good about, how we did fall camp, and the walkthroughs and the teaching style and the way that we're able to do things. I think there's some things that we'll carry forward.
Thank you, Coach.
You're welcome.
Gibby.
Yeah, Coach, when you're recruiting, do you like those players who play multiple sports, and do they tend to be better college football players because they play multiple sports in high school?
Well, I think competing in more than one season makes you a better competitor, regardless of what that other sport is. I just think there's a competitive edge that some guys have when they go to a second season of competition or a third season of competition. In some cases, a three-sport athlete. It does make them a little bit different. It doesn't mean they're going to be better, not necessarily, but I do think they have an edge when it comes to this competitiveness and, the way that they're able to manage their time, because there's so much time management that goes into college football for these young men. And I think they are, used to doing that. They're used to school and another sport throughout their high school, and that helps them when they get here. I like what it does just from a dynamic They're learning other skills from a movement standpoint, you know, whether it's a basketball player, whether it's a track athlete, a baseball player, a wrestler, you know, depending on the position that we're talking about. You know, obviously you can see Thayer was a great baseball player, still is, and he's a really good returner. You know, he's an outfielder that can track the ball, and those kind of things carry over. The track speed carries over, the wrestling skills carry over for linemen, and the toughness that goes with that sport. So I'm always excited to recruit someone that's a multi-sport athlete. It doesn't mean we don't recruit players that aren't, because as you know, there's a lot that do not do that anymore, but it is something that we look for, and it's something that we deem as a very positive thing.
All right, last one, David, you have a follow-up?
Yeah, Coach, if you could just tell us a little bit about the impact that Joker Phillips has had, you know, since he came to Raleigh, not just on the players, but also on you.
You know, Joker, very experienced football coach, been a lot of places, worked for a lot of really good coaches, and been a head coach himself, as you know. The thing that's cool about him, he's got no ego. He gets up in front of the team, or he'll talk in front of the staff. He presents things in a very open, I don't know, just an honest way. You know, he's got a good way of speaking to people, and he's had some great ideas. He's a good listener. He doesn't come in and try to force things down your throat that he's done, but he gives you his perspective, and he's a good sounding board. You know, having him and Ruffin here gives me two guys that were head coaches to talk to about things that come up. And for me, that's great to have. You know, as a head coach, you love to be able to get opinions of people that sat in your chair, because there's no one else that can really feel what you're feeling, even though they want to or think they can. Being in this chair is different. It brings different things. Your decisions affect a lot more people than just the position coaches. So it's great having that. You know, I can walk down to his office and, hey man, this came up today. Did you ever deal with something like this? And whether he did or didn't, at least he knows where I'm coming from with the question. His chemistry with Coach Beck and Coach Roper makes it a great fit for us. You know, unlike a lot of hires where you bring a guy in and he's not only learning your system, he's learning the personalities of the people he's working with. In his case, really, Coach Garrison's the only coach on our offensive staff that he hadn't been around. He'd been around Coach Goebel. So there's really good chemistry, similar to when we brought in Brian Mitchell and Joe DeForest on defense for Tony last year. They had already worked together. And so you're kind of stepping through some of the hurdles very quickly that you normally would have in a transition. But with the players, you know, he's coached a lot of players, guys that have developed, guys that were elite, guys that were in the NFL. And so he can bring more perspective and other ways of doing things. George McDonald did a great job here. And so Joker's been able to step into a very experienced coach's room and pick up where he left off and add some nuances that George didn't have. You know, each coach has a little bit different way of doing things that I think was really good for our veteran wideouts, because we got a unique wide receiver room. You know, you've got CJ Riley and Emeka Emezi and Devin Carter and Thayer Thomas, who are veteran players. And then you've got a bunch of young guys that are freshmen and COVID freshmen, as I call them, that are, you know, going into their second year, but they're really first year players on their clocks. And so he's got to develop that group, but at the same time, he's got to make sure these upper level guys are getting masters type lessons, you know, and he has the ability to do that.
It's a great segue because we have a veteran wide receiver, Thayer Thomas, waiting. So, Coach, I appreciate your time.
Thanks, Coach.
Thanks. Yeah, thanks for having me. Good to see everybody. See you later.
Bye.